All right, so what'd you think of last night?
Let me start with like two observations before we get into the Kamala stuff, because I think all of us have got thoughts on that. First of all, Bret Baier did an absolutely exceptional job. I mean, he's one of very few, remarkably few journalists, yourself included, that when you get into a situation where you're interviewing a public figure of some significance, that they can actually do their job in a way that journalism is supposed to be done. I think he did an exceptional job. Second of all, what I found so hilarious about the reaction to all of this is the Democrats acting like she just stormed the beaches at Normandy. Right? Yeah. She answered all the questions. It's like, no. Like, that's the job that people are supposed to do who call themselves journalists. And like, Bret is an absolute blue chip journalist. Like, this is what he does. He did the same thing to Donald Trump, by the way, So I understand that they don't watch Fox, so they don't know what actual journalism looks like on Special Report at 6 o'clock, but that's what it is, right?
Or any channel. I guess it's not available, but it's been so long, and by that I mean never, that Kamala Harris has had a challenging interview since she became the nominee. They don't even understand it when they see it. It's like the dog with the They don't, instead of being like, oh, journalism, they're like, I'll give you a sampling, guys. Here is a little bit of the media meltdown in response to that interview.
We witnessed a man who spent his life as a down-the-middle journalist, seeming to throw it all away for his audience of one, interrupting the vice president awkwardly and unnecessarily.
I thought she handled it masterfully. I mean, he was rude.
I think Bret Baier was rude. So was it a home run? No. Did she need it to be a home run? Absolutely not.
And I was quite repulsed by Bret Baier. The attack mode from the beginning was quite stunning.
Vice President Kamala Harris kicks Bret Baier's ass. It was an extraordinary performance from the vice president in hostile territory. And frankly, Bret Baier should leave, quit the job, and go to a monastery and hope to atone.
Hello.
Yeah, the lib media reaction is exactly what I was waiting for this morning after I saw it last night. I mean, every morning when I get up, I like to say today is going to be an insane day. And what I saw this morning out of the left-wing media just did not disappoint.
No.
And a huge missed opportunity. I mean, take it out of the partisan lens. And, Democrats for weeks have been begging Kamala Harris's campaign to distance herself from President Biden. And she refused to do that. And Bret Baier gave her numerous opportunities. He was like, look, 80% of this country thinks we're on the wrong track. Is there anything you would have done differently in the last 3.5 years? And she can't. He asked her, okay, what's going to be different about your administration than Joe Biden? The best she could do is, well, I will be a different person. It'll be a different person will be taking the oath.
A new generation of leadership.
Unbelievable.
So, like, you're younger?
You would think on Fox News, if they had a strategy as a presidential campaign to make that pivot, to make distance between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, do it on Fox. You've got people willing to hear that message that are independent, that are conservative leaning. And like, you had a huge opportunity. That's what is blowing my mind about this, is it was a huge opportunity for Kamala Harris to finally make that pivot, and she didn't.
But she ain't got it. That's the problem. She just doesn't have another gear. Like, this is, for whatever you saw of Kamala Harris, and I think it was an abject disaster for all the reasons that you pointed out in your monologue at the top. She doesn't have, that's as good as you're going to get. Like, it doesn't get any better for her than that. I mean, imagine you spend the last 2 weeks not being able to answer the simple question of what you would do differently, and then you get a shot to redo it, and you still haven't come up with anything. Like, sooner or later, you're just like, well, I guess it's all we got. Kamala Harris and it's not Donald Trump,
Oh, well. So I will add this. I also thought she was whiny. Like, that business about against the American people. She's got to be aware she has a terrible voice. As Maureen Callahan describes it, it's vocal fry adjacent. It's too much. It's a lot. And there's a clip online on Twitter where it has a split screen of her with like the angry, scolding look, and Bret Baier as follows, with the eyes closed. It's like, and they were like, there isn't a man alive who can't relate to this. Like, she's a lot. And I teed up just a little sampling of what I am referring to. Watch.
May I please finish?
Yes,
may I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish. I'm
and
in
they
the
didn't bring
middle
up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising, and I'd like to finish. Turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Bret.
More than
people are
70% of people
exhausted. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within. Talking about the American people. Well, that's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you.
That was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that.
You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Bret. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism.
All right. Now, my take on that, guys, is like that the young gals might be looking for like a girl boss moment. She's already got them because they want abortions. She needs to get men. And you tell me what man is out there like, I want to spend more time with that.
I mean, so I believe it was actually Roger Ailes who would point out that if you watch people on mute just for the body language, it's extremely telling of what's happening there. And I actually, after I'd watched it, I muted it. It was much more enjoyable with her on mute. But just looking at her body language, the last 30 seconds for me were just completely critical. She was back in her chair, arms folded, just giving off as much hostility as physically possible a person can convey. That whole interview, she basically came off as being someone who is angry, combative, extremely unlikable. And she's not serving herself any favors with male voters, with female voters, with any voting bloc, except for the left, who has found themselves in a position where they want to be gaslit, where they want to say, oh, she won the day. Yes, I am happy she does not want to answer any questions for me. Bret Baier, it's sad that the state of being a great journalist is asking questions the average American would want to know. At what point did you notice Joe Biden had cognitive decline? When, months earlier,
she hasn't been.
I've not been asked that.
I mean, that thing was
until 2 weeks before the election?
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Wow. Great contrast. One of the things that makes Bret so good at this gig is that he exudes his comfortability, right? And at one point she was just trying to talk over him the whole time. And he's like, I think we're just talking over each other. I apologize. Here's what I'm trying to ask. It's this disarming way. As a viewer, you watch it and you're like, oh, he's got total control of this situation. Meanwhile, you look at her and it's like, it's just combative.
All right. I've got to read you this, Holmes. So first of all, I do want to say I'm going to read you this quote because it plays right off of what you're saying, but the opposite view. Bret revealed after the interview that they got there late. They were supposed to tape between 5 and 5:30. His show starts at 6. And when you're doing what's called an as live, where you're doing an interview that's pre-taped and you're just going to run it as was, without edits, it does take some time to ingest it into the system and to turn it. Like you can't be doing that interview up till 5:58 and make air at 6. Trust me, we've been in this position many times on many shows I've done. And so it was important that it go from 5 to 5:30, as she agreed to do. He revealed after the fact she didn't show up until 5:15 and sat down, fine, he was a pro. He started taping it with her. And that 25 minutes in, instead of 30, her team was giving him the hard rap. He said 4 of her staffers were behind her like, rap, which explains why he was like, he even said it in the interview, like, I'm getting the hard rap here, which is so weird because it must have been over the top. Because if you've got staffers telling you a hard rap is necessary, but the candidate is speaking and going on, she's supposed to be the boss. Like she should be in charge. If she wants it to go on, it's going to go on. I wouldn't be listening to the staffers. So they were in a panic because they knew it wasn't going well. And they really tried to F him, which, by the way, did increase the time pressure on Bret. He knew he had to get through these subjects and to stop the talking points and the non sequiturs. And he did a great job of it. But here's what I wanted to read you. There's a lot of crazy media reaction, but this guy stood out to me. He works for Deadline. His name is Dominic Patton. And it's just so over the top. Having been roasted online by the MAGA base in anticipation of softball questions, quote, real journalist, as the VP called him at one point. You're already wrong, Dominic. She called him a serious journalist. So already you fucked up your facts. Bret barely let the VP get a word in during the opening part of the sit-down. As Baier played largely to the MAGA base and his core viewership, the veteran anchor appeared largely out of his depth. Challenged on his questions and wanting to flex his own muscles, Baier ended up fumbling his line of questioning and losing control of the interview to the well-prepped VP as he got caught up in centering over and over on culture war issues and Joe Biden's mental acuity.
Oh my God.
Well, Megyn, you know, when I want analysis on depth, the first place I usually turn is Deadline.
Same.
And I
same.
tell you how many opportunities I've had to like go to Deadline and just find out what is really going on behind the scenes. You don't know until you read Deadline. One of the things that was interesting to me about the four staffers waving their hands in the background is what subject they were covering when they did it. She was getting very weak on Iran, and they lost their mind. Yeah. We can't let her keep talking about Iran because we have Iran sympathists who are working for us, and so we can't mess that up.
They're watching Michigan poll numbers tick down.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
And complaining that Bret was interrupting her. Well, you know, you got to make some clarifying points during an answer in which, like, they all start with, well, we really got to go back to the signing of the Treaty of Versailles before we talk about the border crisis. You know, like, she was clearly stalling for time because she didn't want to have to answer the question.
Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. The app shows whether you're burning fat or carbs and provides tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and stress management. You see, you breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and then based on your measurements, Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for the day. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals to get real-time insights. Your metabolism is your body's engine, how it turns food into fuel. Optimal metabolic health translates to numerous benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, and better sleep. Lumen can also track your cycle, adjusting its recommendations to maintain a healthy metabolism through hormonal shifts. If you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Megyn to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/Megyn for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.